Welcome. It's your man, God of Dots. I'm back with another episode of the Audible. I'm gonna probably try to make just a regular occurrence on Friday, Freestyle Friday. Kind of twist in those that know me know. Try to twist in some real life stuff and kind of meld it with some of the stuff that's going on in the sports world. Well, tonight's topic, especially hold on. How you doing, Dr. Nikki? Matter of fact, um, this is a continuation of the conversation me and you had last time I did a Freestyle Friday. And you see the tagline at the bottom, should athletes be looked at as role models? And I think, last time we kind of disagreed on the topic, but I'm in very good spirits. I am in a very good mood. Woo, 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 woo. The Lord is working with me. The Lord is working with me. But this is a continuation of that conversation we had. Like I said, we kind of differ. We have different opinions on this, different stances on this. I'm of the mindset of and not just, I don't want to just leave it to athletes. But I think, any mature adult should strive to be a role model figure. Not to say that you have to be perfect, because we are all imperfect. We all have our flaws. We all have our shortcomings. We all stumble. We all fall. But I'm of the mindset, as an athlete, as a public figure, even though that is a role you may not want to embrace, and that's why you see Charles Barkley on the screen and his famous words, "I am not a role model." It's you kind of have to. It comes with that mantle of notoriety of being a public figure, of just being an adult. I mean, too often, athletes and entertainers, and I know sometimes it's unfair for you to expect them to be perfect all the time. And the everyday man is allowed to stumble and fall in peace and in private. I mean, but that comes with the territory. More eyes are watching you. More people are watching you. Matter of fact, hold on for a second. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm not going to suggest a topic and then leave you hanging.
How you
That's
doing,
not
Miss
me.
Lady? How you
I
doing?
am well. How are you doing?
I'm still alive and well. Despite what you heard.
I listen. The funny thing is, I hadn't heard anything until I saw your email.
Oh,
That's
yes,
how important stuff is to me.
man. We're gonna talk about that in a couple of hours, because yeah.
Oh, but of course.
Oh, I got people bothered, but okay. So to kind of follow up on our conversation that we had last time, you were on the side of they shouldn't be looked at as role models, and I'm on the side that they should be looked at as role models. And so before I kind of let me finish up my monologue, and then we'll kind of get into the discussion. Like I said, it comes with the territory. Is that undue pressure on them? To a degree, yes, but at the same time, um, you have other athletes who take that responsibility very seriously and they truly try to be a model, for young people, a role model for young people. Your thoughts and opinions, ma'am?
Well, I think what we were talking about is not different than what you said, but I think where we kind of differ is that I submitted the idea that an ambassador of something is different from a role model.
Okay.
Because I teach at the collegiate level, and we're always trying to talk to our students about being ambassadors of the brand when they are out and about. Especially if you have on the Nelia or something with the school printed on it. That's more along the lines of what most institutions care about. What are you doing when you have on our symbol?
Okay.
Not any other time. And that's where I think that language really matters when you're trying to tighten something up, hold somebody accountable and just really be very clear as far as, in the eyes of law, or any way somebody could, kind of be in a predicament with, using these words, because to me, they're not interchangeable.
Okay, well, let me kind of take it a step further, because you talk about ambassadors. Now, we know the NFL, how they feel about their players being quote unquote ambassadors for the team. Should that extend to off the field? Because we've seen football players get suspended for stuff that they weren't criminally charged for or punished for, because you made the league look bad, you were suspended, i.e., Zeke Elliott.
Right.
You think
Um,
that is fair? You think the ambassadorship should extend into your personal off the field when you're quote unquote not representing the team?
okay, so here's where things become a little nuanced, and also speaks to my own limitations, because isn't Zeke Elliott was a franchise player, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so with that, you know what I'm saying? That adds like another layer as opposed to just anybody else who's on the team. So because I'm not immersed in like what that contract might mean and what have you, just being honest. And as I said, I'm happy to have limitations, because that means that I look to you to learn. I can't make an intelligent stance on that.
Okay, well, I'll break it down a little bit further.
Please do.
With the new collective bargaining agreement they came up with the Players Association, all even stuff that's off the field, that's not team related, doesn't have anything to do with the team, that may involve quote unquote criminal charges or investigations, the league can come back and punish them, even though they may have not been punished in a court of law. I.e., with Zeke ended up getting suspended 6 games for something he was charged with, but it was eventually cleared of. But because you made the league look bad by even being involved with something like that, you were suspended. I mean, it's not just star players. I mean, star players get the headlines, but like a lot of these players that got suspended this past offseason with gambling, some of them weren't even the ones gambling. It was people in their entourage. But the league is looking at what that person's associated with you. We're going to assume that you was giving them the money, and we're not talking like large amounts of money that was being reported being bet on, but it's the fact that this person's aligned with you, because the NFL and a lot of these major sports organizations and even major corporations know who you associate with. But I don't think it should be the ambassadorship should stop at some point.
Okay, so were they just gambling, or were they betting on games where Zeke was playing? Because you did say off season, right?
Yeah, they was betting on games, and not necessarily football games. This gambling period. Offensive lineman, former 3rd round pick. A lot of people never heard of the guy. Ended up getting suspended because he was betting on NBA games, but they suspended him 6 games because he was at the team facility when he was making the bet.
Okay, so that's where stuff gets a little sticky. Because even with situations that we're engaged in elsewhere, people do care about what you do on their time, because it's assumed that if you're on their time, using their stuff, what have you, that you're supposed to behave a certain way. So being that you said that this person was on their property or at their facility doing this kind of stuff, that was definitely irresponsible.
I agree.
But I think that if that's not made clear, then it's almost like, okay, do you read your contract? How well are you and onboarding people and things of that nature? So I believe that the organization has some onus in that as well.
Well, I agree, and like they try to educate players on the
No, either
matter.
you do or you don't. You can't try with that.
Well,
It's
I mean,
either
you
we
put the
covered it,
information.
you were here, you signed in, you know what I'm saying? You were, we got pictures and we covered this and you just didn't remember it or you didn't. That's what I mean by
I mean,
that.
but like I know, in the professional sense, when we're talking about training and recurrent training, that kind of stuff, a lot of that stuff is really CYA stuff to cover, quote unquote, the employer. Um,
Absolutely.
so I'm not going to say that the player shouldn't have been paying attention because that's your money on the line by not paying attention. But I mean, how forceful is the NFL for dropping that information and really hammering it home, or we're just going to put it out there in a pamphlet, say it's at the team facility, and not really take any ownership of really, really, really making sure everybody understands it.
Absolutely, which is why, when you start getting into penalties and what have you, that there's some beats, some things. Because I know in my field, we have what's called professional development. And if you're lacking or you're not current on your, in your area, or, there's a policy that they think, okay, maybe the language wasn't so this and so that. So we're going to professionally develop everyone and make sure that everybody's on the same page. I don't know. I think that some people's penalties are a lot harsher than others for things that are less serious. Like there's a quarterback up there that's a cheesehead, who has been, noted for, abusing drugs. And I haven't, heard of him being suspended. Now, was he suspended?
No, he was told to kind of stay home for personal reasons.
You see what I'm saying? That administrative leave type thing. So why
Yeah.
couldn't that be the rule across the board, for your first infraction, regardless of what it is, unless you've been arrested? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but see, here's it,
So
because
to me, it's about fairness and equity.
it's, but it, I'm with you. I'm agreeing with that, but it's almost to the point where the ambassadorship doesn't stop at all. Like they expect you to be a representative, a good representative of the company, i.e., we want you to be a role model in the professional sense and in your personal life.
Right, but I think when you tell somebody that you're an ambassador for something, to me, that puts you in a different mindset as opposed to a role model, because you're talking about people who may not have children and things of that nature. But, if for those who went to college, they understand I am an ambassador every time I leave this campus. So, I think that would help as well, because again, those terms can't be used interchangeably. And some of those players may be looking like, well, I'm not married, I'm not a parent. So why would you put this on me when this is not my day to day? I don't know how to be a role model in that sense. Where it's easy for those people who do have those added responsibilities to kind of acquiesce and to stay out of trouble, if you will.
Okay,
That makes sense.
I'm with you. I'm with you
Okay.
now. Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Without the caveat of having kids and family, shouldn't we as adults strive to be where like model have behavior people want to model after?
Okay, so yes and no. So I'm going to say yes because you're an athlete and you're at the top of your game.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to say no because, and this is not fence riding, this is just looking at everything laterally, considering all of very real and scientific factors. If these young men are 21, 22, 23, 25 or whatever, science and study shows that your brain is still developing. Now, we don't know at what rate, your brain is being hindered by the hits and concussions and all the other stuff. Like, I'm not deep into it on that because, I'm an educator. So I'm looking at maturity and things of that nature. I think that's a little bit too much to expect, as far as role model status and what I envision a role model to be, to put on very young players. I really do.
I don't. I'm on the other side of the fence. I feel like
Because
Once
they
you
have older players. I'm sorry for interrupting, but
go
they
ahead.
have older players who should be modeling for them how to do. And oftentimes, some of these younger players are with older players doing all this stuff that they didn't get caught with, but the younger players get caught doing.
Yeah, I'm listen. I agree with that 100%. But I'm of the mindset of this, and this is where it kind of extends outside of the sports realm.
Mm-hmm.
Once you reach the, where you can be considered an adult, and whatever mindset you have to be in or age group, because I'm not going to say 18 you're an adult, because I know plenty of underdeveloped 50-year-old people.
Oh, for sure.
But once you reach a point where you're considered an adult, I think you should be modeling, but have behavior that people should be modeling, not necessarily being an upstanding family person or something like that. Just
Mm-hmm.
when people look at you, understand that you're not perfect, but you strive to be someone that someone can look up to. Someone, I'm like this mindset here. I step out of the house every day, and I carry myself in a certain way because I want people that associate with me, people that know me, to be proud to say I know him.
Exactly.
And I think that should be the kind of mindset that athletes should have, and it shouldn't have to be forced on them by the team. It should be something that's taught to you and ingrained in you. So I don't, when I hear athletes say, I'm not a role model, I shouldn't, I'm not trying to be here for that. Like it's like you copping out. Like it's false and it's fake to me.
So I hear you on that, but where were they supposed to learn these habits from in order to, demonstrate or enact it when they get to those points, in their field career or what have you? Because some of the people that respect them or admire them do that because of what they do on the job.
And I agree with that. I agree with that. Some people just look up to them because they're athletes.
Right. Well, right. And how good they are with what they do, how proficient, their acumen, all these other types of things. And if it's just to be just bare bottom bones truth, where the rubber meets the road, a lot of these athletes are not coming from people who were role models to them.
I agree with that.
So if it starts at home,
mm-hmm.
Your job doesn't feel like they need to do what home did not do. And you're taking a great big risk in assuming that everybody at the job is modeling that behavior as well. Because people do what they see other people do and get away with.
Okay, you make a very strong point. Hold on, let me pause for the calls. How you doing, Ms. VS? And how you doing, Keeper? Yeah, I'm still alive and well, contrary to what you heard.
Hey, ladies. I've learned to, when I get on panels, to not look at the chat, so I can't see who enters the room, and I think I'm just much more focused when I do that. So, hi, ladies.
But hey, over here's the quiet space still. But I don't know. It's like a part of me, like I get that is good, solid, sound reasoning, but at the same time, I think it is too many examples for you to pull from, even if they're not in your personal life, where you can kind of pull and say, I want to model that behavior. That is something that I see, and I want to model that. Like some people are inspired to go on and achieve like what you've achieved, getting your doctorate, and come from a family that never, nobody ever went to college. I mean, I'm of the mindset, like, yeah, you should be a role model. As an adult, like you should be, a role model to where people look up to you and, look at you with a sense of respect. Like I can respect what you do because of how you carry yourself. So
Right. I understand that, but think about it. The term is role model. Somebody has to model this role for you. So if it's never modeled for you in all these different environments, it is absolutely ridiculous for someone to kind of hold you to that standard without training you or developing you or putting you in situations to where your mistake is not punitive. That's one of the things that, even in my area, on behalf of students as well as, faculty and staff, it's like every time you make a mistake, the penalties are so severe. So how does that promote, you learning? It's like you don't, everybody gets chances in life, especially if that's what you're promoting. Education is a second chance at, something, upward mobility, if
Yeah.
what you were doing before doesn't work. So, that's kind of, again, you cannot be a role model if you didn't have role models. And if no one sits down and takes the time to train you on what that looks like. Very few teams have, these players that they can look up to say, hey, this person has done this and that. Because a lot of it depends on how much money you make. Again, I have nothing against LeBron James, but he's been one to kind of stay out of the media, as far as his dealings. But do I think he doesn't have dealings that are questionable? Of course not. He was been in the league since he was 18.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And LeBron is
So he
one of
has the
those.
money to cover it up. That's the point I'm getting to. He's got money to cover stuff up.
Well, I mean, it's money, but I think he spends a lot of time and effort and really focusing in on his image. And making sure that he can quote unquote be an ambassador for an organization. Some players, they don't understand that, just because you quote unquote off the clock, you still own the clock. Certain jobs in this world, you're on the clock to a degree where people are looking at you, and they have certain expectations of you, whether you're actually working or not. And I think a lot of these players miss the boat on that.
Yes, they do. But the thing is this, and I'll say this, and it applies to both spaces that we're in. The people who are most critical are the ones who may either be in the field or may also be a professional, but they're not modeling that behavior either.
With that, I agree.
So it's like the pot calling the kettle black. It's like, yeah, you're telling me I can't do this, but look at what you're doing. So I can do worse.
Well, do you? I'm gonna ask you this. Do you think it's unfair to have higher expectations of players just because of the money that they make? Do you think that's unfair?
Absolutely.
Why so?
I just feel that there is a certain level of immaturity that comes along with that. And it's just like anybody who gets new money. If you don't come from it, you're not used to it. So it puts you in situations to where all types of things are coming at you that are going to be enticing because you've never had liberties to do these things before. So it's like, why penalize somebody when you already know what's coming to them?
Well, and then kind of like to play devil's advocate with this. Now, with greater power or quote unquote greater money comes greater responsibility.
I understand that, but you're giving very young people who haven't proven to be responsible. They've just proven that they're a good athlete. They haven't proven responsibility. Because you have people like for those, and I'm speaking just for those who actually go to college, because we do know some people make it to certain leagues without, having to go to college. You got a coach that's staying on your butt. They make you go to study hall. Like these players are not doing this stuff on their own. Okay, well. So it's like you're being programmed. You have coaches that call professors and say, hey, is this person coming to class? If they don't come to class, let us know, because you're not playing those. You see what I'm saying? Like even with high school, you have to have a certain GPA in order to play. Once you make it to the league, they're not saying you have to have a certain nothing. You need to be able to play and we need to win. That's it.
Well, I mean, I think over the past decade, with a lot of these leagues, the public image is becoming more of part of the quote unquote programming because it affects sponsorship money. You don't want to be looked at as a league that kind of like looks the other way when this kind of stuff goes down. That's why I think you see with the NFL with some of their suspensions and some of their dealings with players is so heavy handed. Because you're not trying to upset the sponsors. I
understand that, but again, it's It's a nice little gnarly mess that I really wish that you and I had the resources or the contacts to be able to talk to some of these people directly and actually look at, like I said the last time we brought this up, to look at a contract to see what the ethics clause, or even if it's written in there,
Mhm.
you know, to see what it says and how loosely worded it is, so that, you know, we can see why people are being caught on a wide, you know, range of stuff, and how some people get administrative leave and then others, you know, get suspended, you know, with no pay.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think social media has changed the way we quote unquote look at role model or ambassadorship? You
Oh,
think social
absolutely. Social media is everywhere. Everybody has access to phones. So that whole digital divide is closing. Now, we still have a wide gap, but it's closing. And everybody is recording stuff and everybody is posting. You don't have to pay for social media accounts. And I mean, please, you can't, you listen. Okay, so I'm going to make an analogy. And if you want to edit this out, I'm not going to be offended.
oh, you know
But
me.
with social media, you can smell a fart in a whirlwind.
Yeah. I think social media has really kind of, for me, it kind of changed the narrative when we're talking about role models, and it's really changed the narrative when we're talking about ambassadorship, because you know it was like once you got off the clock, that was it. Now
Yeah,
with
right.
some,
Within reason. You know,
yeah,
you don't, you know, go out, you know, you don't leave a game and then go slap somebody. You know,
yeah.
like, you don't do that.
I mean, but even with, you know, even with, let's say, Charles Barkley, you know, his incidents from back in the day, it would have been much worse in today's society, because a lot of that stuff was
Oh,
recorded on. You couldn't,
absolutely.
you didn't see it. You did. It wasn't nobody filming it.
So you don't even know how bad it was.
Exactly. I think with social media is, you know, is making, for me, I kind of look at it as a you know, a good thing, bad thing. Like, yeah, you don't want your every move recorded, but some people, you know, might need that kind of pressure to you know, make sure their behavior kind of stays in the lines.
Right. So it should somewhere be a clause in their contracts, which is why I keep going back to the contracts that speaks to that.
Mhm.
Because if it's not, then some of these people really do have some legal loopholes that they can jump through.
Yeah. I mean, but
Because they're also playing on this. I'm so sorry, Jarma.
no, you go
Um,
ahead. Go ahead.
they're also playing on the level of complicitness, you know, in their players.
Mhm.
Because if it were me, well, I don't know. I'm just saying this because I'm on the outside. I would be challenging everything. And, you know, I work in a field where I can do that. I can challenge any and everything.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, they can't. You know,
Yeah.
I used to
Yeah.
tell my students, I'm going to make the same amount of money whether you show up or not. Like, this is not a deal where I get paid off the door. This is not club, you know, Dr. Proctor Walden's room.
Yeah.
So, you know, but with them, that's not the case. They do get paid off the door, you know, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, I mean, you know, hold on, let me make. How you doing, Gator Girl? One, you know, one of my day ones up in here. She says, you know, complicated question. Jesse, Jackie, and Earl are heroes to me, but some folks just play sports. Yeah, I get that. Um, but I think, you know, and I'm just of the mindset, and kind of like I said, it extends outside of sports with me. Once you reach a certain maturity level or of adulthood, you should be displaying behaviors that people should want to emulate.
But wait a minute. Now I got to check you on that because about 20 minutes ago, that's not what you said, because
Ah,
that was my argument. You said once you
I can
reach
be
certain
swayed.
levels of maturity, and we talked about the scientific data that states your brains are still developing to your 25, you know, 30 years old. That's a fact.
Yeah, it is, but I think, you know, yeah, my, you know, my argument can be swayed sometimes. I'm not a hard liner, but you know, I'm just, you know, at the end of the day, because you can make the argument that you know, your brain is still developing, but we have seen plenty of 18 and 19-year-olds display, you know, perfect adult model behavior. Even
Who? Like who?
I think, I mean, I can look at, you know, LeBron is a good example. Um, I can look at Warwick Dunn, former running back for the Falcons in Florida State, a guy that each year was always buying a single family a home. Like, this had that in him, and he was, they were raised right. Um, Not everybody that's 18 is off the chains.
Okay.
Some of them had it.
So
Some
I
of them
know
had
who
it.
Warwick Dunn is, but I cannot recall his face. If you're an ugly dude and you don't have these options, then of course you're gonna be model. So nah, we're not even
No, no,
gonna do
no,
that.
no, no. I'm not gonna say it, but
I'm
his
just
thing.
kidding.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, but his thing was,
That does matter though.
yeah, he had a good upbringing. A lot of the stuff he was doing was influenced by good parenting. I think if you have good parenting, you can kind of stay out of trouble with that guidance and direction. You know, you can function pretty well in the world as an 18 line. Now you come into real adulthood when you have more added responsibilities. But I think 18, 19, trust me, I've seen plenty of them have their stuff together. And I've seen like people we know that are in their 40s and 50s and they'll never get it together. And you just got to have the mindset for it. That I want to be something. I want to model behavior that people want to emulate. That's just kind of like my stance on it. But I think at the end of the day, I think athletes, whether they want to accept it or not, you can call it ambassadorship. I mean, we're kind of, I guess, we're speaking the same language, just a little bit of dialect. You're speaking Spanish, I'm speaking Italian, but we're kind of saying the same thing. I think they, should be looked at as role models. I mean, because you're on a public platform. You're just like, but I don't put them any higher up. I don't look at them as having higher expectations that I would someone in my own neighborhood. I would say that much.
Okay, well, see, an ambassador would put you in that situation because that means when you don't have the nail you're on, of course, you can't go wilding out, but you have a chance to let loose a little bit. I mean, I don't think anybody, because you're a part of an organization, should have to live this very uptight and boring life because that's not being a role model either. Nobody wants to, have I guess be a part of these franchises and then you turn into a square lame, but
Well,
or like, I don't think that these general managers, because for the most part, some of us don't know who all of them are.
mhm.
They're not out being probed 24/7. So it's almost like you are trying to get me to be something when you really can't identify with the life that I'm living.
Well, I mean that draws into a larger argument because I can agree with you as far as like GMs, team presidents, even some team owners. They'll have look at Daniel Snyder, Washington's former owner. You got Robert
Hmm.
Kraft, the New England Patriots owner, like participate in behavior that if that was a player, we'd be having a totally different discussion. But because that's part of the quote unquote power structure, the conversation is different.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. Whatever policies and practices that you're going to have, I think that it should come from a body that is above, that governs, the NFL or NBA or what have you, not so that it's different from team to team, kind of like, NCAA is
Mhm.
supposed to be functioning. So, I think that because, again, we have all of these differences, the money's not the same regardless of where you go and what have you. There's so many very real nuances to this, but I think that calling somebody a role model is one that more people reserve for people who are married or people who are in the professions, like teaching, doctors, lawyers, pastors, and parents,
Mhm. That's
because they service everybody. Not everybody watches the NFL. Not everybody, cares about sports or, all these other things. So that's why I think that ambassador works a little bit better because we know that that's basically when you have the stuff on, you have to be mindful of what you do. Even with my sorority, I'm mindful of what I do when I put my jacket or my letters on.
mhm.
I'm mindful of what I do. but they don't tell me what to do. I'm just mindful.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
I've been a parent longer than I've been a Zeta. You see what I'm saying? So, it, we're just different. So, I don't know what I would have been like if I had, got on or got a multi-million-dollar contract, at 18, before I had my children and all this other kind of stuff. I don't know what I would have been.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with with that assessment. Now, let's kind of change the tone here as we kind of like get ready to
Wind down because we over the time limit.
no yeah, you took 30 minutes.
You're at 30 minutes, hit it and quit it.
Now you've been checking out my previews. I know me and you are Cowboys fan, and not to be biased, we always believe our boys gonna win the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
Who do you, besides us, who do you like in the AFC, and who do you like in the NFC this year? Besides us.
Oh, should I have one more week to think about that?
Okay, we'll pick it up another.
Please, I will answer, but can I just have one more week to think about that? Because I've been taking notes on what you said and I've been listening. And of course, there's some teams that I follow because they have black quarterbacks or black coaches. But, you're forcing me to look at some things differently because I normally only look at my team like that. So give me one more week and I will give you, and I'll be able to say why.
Okay, so yeah, next week, for those who don't know, be doing AFC North. Who's your favorite player
in the universe?
Yeah, who favorite player of all time?
Oh, that's so difficult because I love the NFL, but I'm gonna have to go with my frat brother, Emmett.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that one. I wasn't expecting that one.
Who do you think I was gonna say? Like, I like Dorsey. Like, there's some people that are in the Hall of Fame that were just the best at what they do. But I don't know. I really like Emmitt Smith.
Now, I love me some Emmett, but considering your personality,
Uh-huh.
I was waiting for you to say Dion or Randy Moss, someone that is prime time.
Emmett is prime time, but again, I like people that play in the secondary. I just think that people don't give them that respect. I like Marshawn Lynch.
I like beast mode.
So, it's like I like people for different reasons. I mean, I would, if I had to vote, I would vote on prime time, because again, I do like his swag. But, again, what was he, a safety? Was he a strong safety? Cornerback. Okay. I don't know. Like, he would have to be in a different position.
Okay. Well, we on that. Besides,
it's like he was flossing for a good reason, but like a really not a relevant reason. It's like, come on, dude.
I love me some Prime. Prime was my favorite player just because, like you said, the swag, but I'm gonna go out there and back it up. That's
definitely
because you got guys that talk, and then you got guys that can talk and play.
But Emmett was one of those. It was like a silent killer.
Emmett did. I mean, come on, man. Emmett didn't talk. Emmett didn't talk other than taking his helmet off. He didn't really talk. Michael Irvin is another one of my favorites. The playmaker.
Yeah. But he's still not. And again, I could even say something, about Witten and Gronkowski for, the tight ends. I don't know. It's just certain positions I look at more than others. And then it's just some people who just get, become bigger than the game. Deion Sanders was bigger than the game.
Okay. Well, okay. Kind of keep it. We're moving around here, moving around the league. Do you think the league is doing enough to have African-American coach or black coaches?
Oh, hell no.
Now, are you aware what the Rooney Rule is, right?
Yes, I'm aware of the Rooney Rule. But remember, you talked about shortcuts and these interim things. And again, as long as there's a back door, like, no.
They're gonna have a back door to it. Now, they not just gonna say it's gonna be a fair and equal hiring process. What would you like to add to the Rooney Rule? I mean, because it's not going anywhere, but if you could like make modifications to it, what would you do?
No interim hires.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's like they have to enforce it. It's like, don't give me a rule with a gaping hole in it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm of the mindset of this.
Does that make sense of what I said though? Because I don't
Yeah,
want you to be like, oh, she a
no,
female. She don't know what she's talking about. No,
no,
it's like,
no,
no,
it does. I
tighten
mean,
it up.
but what they're banking on is people not really knowing how that rule works, and I think not just with sports, but a lot of like organizations, they bank on you not really knowing what the stuff really is, and not
Mm-hmm.
really understanding what it is you're signing off on. Like, yeah, it sounds good. We're gonna force teams to interview minorities, but if you really want to, make it something solid, for me, like, if you're gonna keep the interim role, I would say at least 25% of the head coaches should be black. That should be a mandate. If you're going to keep the interim loophole, I mean, because they're not going to give you that without having a trade off.
Oh, of course, of course, of course.
But I would
But
say,
it's like that rule has no teeth if there's an interim way to still get someone in there. Because it's like you forget after a while that they're interim, because it's not like every game they remind you he's the interim coach. It's like
I mean, but that's, with sports, I mean, we're talking about, billionaire owners who really don't answer to anybody. They don't answer to the commissioner. He answers to them. He works for them.
yeah, see, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And then you have the association that really is just people gathering together to talk.
Yeah, Miss Murphy says it goes back to the creativity racism that was discussed a few weeks ago. Yeah, I mean,
absolutely,
because they're not going to give you a straight up fair Rooney Rule when they're doing it. They're going to have some kind of caveat, some kind of backdoor, some kind of loophole, as you like to say. And that's just not just with the NFL. This is with major sports, even major organizations that you work for. It's a loophole somewhere. Like some states to say, common courtesy is like, yeah, I give somebody 2-week notice to that I'm resigning. Some states have it. It's a right to work. They'll fire you. They can fire you on the spot, and you can do nothing about it. I mean, it's a dirty game. It's a dirty game. But you got to kind of play the game with them, because they're, at the end of the day, they're holding all the cards.
Right, but if you can appoint somebody in the interim, then it's like, okay, so if you can't do that, that means you got to go through that process and find somebody. It's not like they're not available.
I mean, but then again, we run into another problem. Like, who's picking the person that's going to be making that decision? Because I don't want nobody that I know that's going to be co-op. Interesting enough, former cornerback for Philadelphia, Troy Vincent, is was one of those people that have quote unquote is in those kind of meetings. I look at him as being co-opted. As much as he was, fighting for the players, and then now that you're in a position, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm really just doing enough to kind of keep my job.
Yeah, that's some BS, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because again, it's just like it's different on this side of the aisle. And playing those politics that politics and politricks, as Jesse Jackson used to say. So I get it, but again, I really think in order for something to have teeth, you got to close, or once you discover that there is one, you're like, yep, you're the first and you will be the last interim.
Well, it's that, for me, it's that fear of them saying, you know what, we're not even going to do that. We're going to do what the hell we want to do because we're the owners. And then like you instead of having
so they need a body that governs that takes away some of the power that the owners have. So this goes back to accountability. So that Rooney Law really doesn't have accountability that goes along with it if you have these loopholes. So who is calling this person out for saying, yeah, okay, you found a loophole, but now we're going to make sure that the focus is on you, so that next season we are all paying attention to who interviews for your job.
Well, here's even with the interview process, unless you're watching very, 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 very closely, sometimes they don't announce who they're interviewing or when they're interviewing.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Make them do it. if you take advantage of the interim thing, this is what you have to do. Your stuff has to be public.
I would agree with that because a lot of these jobs, and not just for head coaching positions, but a lot of these assistant coaches, coordinator positions, you don't hear about these guys getting interviewed and these moves being made until the guys already been hired and signed.
Absolutely. So you don't know who's out there looking, but I'll say this for the interim. The interim should come from be a staff person who was already there, not someone new.
Yeah, like if, for those who are coming in kind of late, make sure you check out the replay. But like the whole situation last year with the Colts, mind blowing for you to just take a guy because you like him because he used to play for your team. He had no real head coaching experience, but you made him the interim head coach of a NFL professional football team when you had guys in house you could have hired.
Or assistant coaches that you could have moved up until you actually went through the hiring process.
But I look at I agree with that. Another situation I'm watching closely is out there in Washington with their offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, formerly the coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's already been reports that some of the players saying he's kind of coaching too hard, and it sounds like some BS because the guy should have been already had a head coaching job for you to be offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs and have 2 Super Bowls under your wing. You go up from OC in KC to being the OC in Washington. Should have been a head coach. They kind of
some people happy with that lateral movement. It's comfortable.
Well, I mean, but he's interviewed for head coaching positions and gotten passed over for, in my opinion, less talented coaches. But I think they kind of set him up. If he doesn't get the job this year, because I don't think Washington's head coach makes it through the season. If they're not successful early on, if he doesn't become head coach interim, I think he's just gonna forever be a coordinator. And that's sad because I think he's one of the best, and should be one of the top candidates. Should have been already had a head coaching job. With his level of success, coaching up Mahomes, you got 2 Super Bowl rings as an offensive coordinator. I mean, no shot to the Philadelphia Eagles fans, but your offensive coordinator went got him a damn head coaching job, and he ain't win shit.
That was a good shot. Pow, pow.
You slide that in, but
pow, pow.
Yeah, I see you out there, Miss Murph. I see you out there. What's going on, Ghost? I see you out there. But yeah, I'm watching his situation in Washington real close because, like I said, you're starting to hear early reports of players being upset with his coaching style, saying it's too hard. And players, that have some kind of cachet with the team will go to the owner and get that guy handled. So I hope he hope he makes it through the season. I hope he gets an opportunity to interview for a head coaching job. But some tell me something funny's going on with Washington when you starting to hear this kind of stuff coming out early, and this first year with the team, with the organization, you starting to leak that kind of stuff. It's almost like they're trying to pigeonhole the brother to be, offensive coordinator forever.
Well, as long as they lose against the Cowboys, I really don't give a damn.
Yeah, that's all we care about. That's all we care about.
As long as they lose against the Cowboys, I don't give a damn who the ambassador or the role models are over there. Listen, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, and I'm so glad that we have somewhere else to go. I appreciate you, for emancipating us for just, if it's not, but just for 30 to 45 minutes. That's a lot. And
I got you.
Listen, next Friday I will have an answer for you. NFC and AFC.
Got you. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna see if I can get Ms. Murph to come over here and jump on my panel one good time. I've had on my panel before, but not over here. But we're gonna have a little bet, Cowboys fans and Eagles fans. We beat y'all. Ms. Murph, you got to hit the panel.
Absolutely. You have to hit the panel.
Because if y'all beat us, I'll come up here and what's that? Shout out to the Eagles with the dub. Like, yeah, I'll give y'all all of that love, but We beat y'all. You got to hit the panel. You got to
And
hit
we
it.
don't want excuses.
No, she can be like, I'm late. I got to catch the replay.
Yeah, we sure catch the replay. Okay, have a good evening. Great show as always. I'm really loving what you're doing over here, and keep going.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure for you to come through on whatever show I'm on.
Yeah, I might be coming through later. I'll holler.
All right, then. All right, man. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. You know, it was a very dope conversation. Freestyle Friday. Might be doing something like this next weekend. If you got some topics, you know, you kind of want to discuss, you know, we're gonna try to mix it in with a little bit of sports, social commentary, that kind of stuff that with the Freestyle Fridays for. And of course, you know, break down the latest and greatest from the world of sports. As always, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit you off with the phrase that pays over here, because y'all know I got to get to work now. Hit you off with the phrase that pays over here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but every time you learn. And I'm out.